grew up in a time when they didn't have a word for dyslexia. They told my mother I had word blindness. And so I struggled all through school. In fact, I'm very fortunate to have graduated from high school. When I was in the 3rd grade, the teacher had a conference with my mother, and it said that Debbie is a very nice little girl, but she is never going to do well in school. And basically, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I never did. It took me to the 5th grade to understand the concept of reading, of sounding out words. I was the self-esteem bottom of the class, right along with everything else at the bottom of the class. I was the only girl in the Robin reading group in the 1st grade. Everybody else was a bluebird or an eagle, or, you know, but I was the robin and the only girl. And I think that more boys suffer from dyslexia than girls, but I had it, and I had it bad. I always dreamed of being a writer. There's a really wonderful example. When I was 4 years old, my mother took me to the library in Yakima, Washington, and it was one of the old Dale Carnegie libraries, which was made of stones, big stones, and I thought it was a castle. And so I got to go to the castle like a princess. I was so excited. And the librarian gave me my first book, because back in the early 1950s, there weren't a lot of children's books. And Mom said I grabbed hold of that book with both hands and put it right next to my heart. And the librarian who handed me that book was Beverly Cleary. So I had a wonderful start, and I loved books immediately, even though I couldn't understand the words or read the words. It was story that attracted me. That creative part of me just bubbled up with joy. And I immediately started to write my own stories. But because I did so poorly in school, I never told anyone I wanted to be a writer, because I knew the minute I did, that dream was so fragile. You know, they would give me all the reasons why I would never make it as a writer. And so I never told anybody until I was a senior in high school. And the principal interviewed each one of us. I went to a Catholic girls' school, and she asked us what we intended to do after we graduated. And I said, for the very first time, I am going to write books. And she looked me in the eye, and I burst into tears. And she sent me home, like it was an impossible dream. But I kept, and every time I would think about that, you know, when you hurt yourself, you throb with pain. But when I thought about being a writer, I throbbed with joy, just joy.
Well, I started off very badly because I couldn't speak clearly. And I was remediated from at age 9. I started my remediation. So when I talk about speech, which is one of the main ones, and what did I speak? I spoke gobbledygook. So the language was interrupted. But I gave a great sign, is that I wrote everything in mirror, from right to left. So when someone showed me something writing from left to right, I then wrote it from right to left. I also could not write because it was a mixture of right to left, left to right. It was quite a mess. Later on, we discovered that I had a different rhythm. So we think usually in terms of speech, reading, writing, but rhythm is there too. I also have a color variation that disagrees with the society. But I was very fortunate to get excellent remediation. Again, in fact, the top, what has become the International Dyslexia Association, was found by Samuel Torrey Orton, and Orton was the one that remediated me. But looking back, I had a very mixed record. I did have A's and F's, and I realized if I had a holistic teacher that looked at it from a holistic point of view, in a sense, told me what that big picture was, I would have no problems at all. If it start off with a fragmentation and then build one fragmentation after another, you get to the same place. You get the same place. But I was lost, absolutely lost. And this is true. I look at a lot of the tests that they give third and fourth graders, that so much of our society, of the No Child Left Behind laws that emphasize tests so much, I still will flunk them. I can't pass a third grade test.
I had a lot of trouble in primary school with my own education because I was having lots of trouble with reading and low-level math skills. But then when I finally got to college, I found that the importance was conceptual skills, and I was good at that. And then even in mathematics, we were forced to take a 2-semester survey of all of mathematics. And to my utter amazement, I was getting A's on all my papers because it wasn't whether you could memorize the formulas or work them out quickly. Did you understand what you're doing with calculus or things like true-false tables or Boolean algebra or combinatorics and things I'd never heard of, and most people had never heard of. And I realized there's a whole world of mathematics out there that is sometimes not so obviously useful, but other times very obviously useful. And it doesn't really have much to do with arithmetic. And so I said, arithmetic's one thing, mathematics to me is something else quite different, high level.